Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all doing well, enjoying some nice summer weather. This is a new webinar. This has never been done before. Buyers tips, tricks, and truths. And most of this is taken from, to be honest, from my own personal experience doing sales with buyers. There's no guidebook for this webinar, and so I hope it's good, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I do try to answer chat questions as quickly as I can. So if you do have a chat, I'll do the best I can to keep track of that. Other thing you can do, if you know how, is you can go to your name in the box. You can unmute yourself and please just say, "Hey, John, I have a question." And I hope to have this as a conversation. We don't have a tremendous number of people. We have about 20 or 25 people with us right now. And so let's try to keep this open, and don't let me do all the talking. Please, it would be helpful if anybody has any comments, suggestions, or ideas. Don't hesitate, please, to bring them forward to me. So the first thing we're going to talk about is looking at properties with your buyers. Kind of what should you be looking for? And the property with the buyers, the first thing that I have on here is the exterior of the property. From my management experience, I find a lot of people when I've asked a lot of real estate salespeople, well, what's the outside of the house like? It's almost like they haven't looked outside. It's you go to the front door, and it's very natural to go to the front door, enter via the lockbox, or maybe somebody's let you in. And sometimes when you're with your buyer, it seems to me that the exterior of the property is almost almost a second look kind of thing, almost a second guess kind of thing. And it's really important. The outside of the house is just as important, and maybe more important in some cases, than the inside of the house, because, it's the shell that's keeping the elements out. And so the things that you should be looking for when you're with a buyer at the exterior of a home is the property clean and garbage free? I mean, that's pretty much a no-brainer. If you're starting to walk around the house and there's garbage bags everywhere, it's dirty, it's messy. I've run into cases, and once again, this is from my own personal experience, that the lawns are full of what from a dog. And you kind of wonder at that point, what are the sellers? Are they actually taking good care of their property and their house altogether? And so it just gives you an immediate indication of what might be happening. And then, are the lawns and gardens well maintained? Of course, many lawns and gardens are well maintained. But an interesting hint is there a garden? Property owners that have made a garden, and that garden is nice and it's got flowers in it and it's well maintained, it usually is an indication that the property overall, you're going to be pretty pleased with it. You walk up to a house and it's got a front yard and a backyard, and there's weeds all over the grass. It's cut, but it's weedy, obviously. There's no garden at all. How much are the people caring about their home? These are just hints on the outside. Is the siding buckled is another one. The siding of a house can be buckled. Does that indicate some kind of shift or something wrong with the siding, or the siding that was used was really cheap and it's starting to buckle when the sun hits it and it really heats up? That kind of thing wasn't installed properly. Are the windows clean? Is another one, from the outside. Are people taking care of their property? And these are just all hints on what you should expect from the inside. And then last but not least, are the shingles curled at the edges? You want to have a look at the roof. Okay, now in commercial properties, of course, when the roof is 20 stories high, that might be a little bit difficult to do. But in a typical residential property, it's not hard to see that kind of thing and see, you know, I should have added in here, just thinking out loud, are the shingles curling at the edges, but are there any shingles missing? A home inspector is going to find this immediately. You know, they're going to point it out as being a deficiency if the shingles are curled at the edges or missing. But in today's world of, you know, firm offers, no inspections, should you and your buyer be looking at this kind of thing and all of these things on this first page? And the answer is yes, of course you should be. Absolutely, you should be. Just gives you some good hints about what's overall care of the property. A little bit more, are the eaves and downspouts in a proper location? I know, and I see lots of houses, even in the $1.5 million houses in Richmond Hill, you drive by, there's some lovely townhouses, and the downspout coming out of the eave ends, guess where it ends? It ends 3 feet above the ground. I'm sure that some of you agents out there have seen that. I know somebody like Judy who has seen exactly what I'm talking about. The eaves are, the downspout is coming down from the eave, and it ends 3 feet above the ground. This is not a good thing. If the eaves do not come down to the ground, make basically a 90-degree turn and stick out 3 feet away from the house, where's all the water going when it rains? It's coming through the downspout right beside the house, right against the foundation. And when that happens in the winter, when that happens late in the fall, and then it freezes, guess what that causes? It causes the foundation to start to crack because you have ice sitting against the wall of the house. This is a kind of thing that you want to watch out for. Once again, home inspectors would pick this up immediately. However, in firm deals, you guys aren't putting in home inspections, understandably, but you should be looking out for this kind of thing. Does a deck have a proper railing or safeguards? In very, very, very general terms, decks approximately 2 feet above the ground or higher need proper railings and safeguards. Some municipalities is as low as 16 inches, but on general, most of them are between about 21 and 24 inches height off the ground. And is there a railing or a safeguard to stop people from falling off? And I think, Amir, you want to mute yourself, please, Amir Haji.
Yeah, I'm here, John.
Yes, thank you. Did you have a question?
No, I don't. Did I raise my hand?
Yeah, it's just you have background noise, Amir. So if you could please mute yourself, it would be much appreciated.
All right, we'll do that.
Thank you, sir. Does a deck have proper railing or safeguards? The point here is that if a deck is high off the and does not have proper railings or safeguards installed, then it probably does not meet the building code. And if it does not meet the building code, it was probably never, a building permit was never applied for. And the owner has built it themselves and just haven't bothered putting in a railing or a safeguard. And so do be aware of heights of decks. If you're not sure about it, then call the municipality and say how high. You can actually Google it online. How high is a deck allowed to be without a railing? For any municipality, you can wade through Google and through the municipality's websites, and you can find that information actually without too much problem. A good real estate agent would always have a measuring tape with them anyway, so you could measure how high it is off the ground just to be on the safe side. Well or lake water. This is, I put this in exterior but it is kind of interior as well. I didn't know where to put this. Is where's the water coming from? Is it a well or a lake water? We're talking about a rural or a cottage property here, of course. Is it coming from a well or a lake? And is there a filtration system involved, which would be the interior part? Maybe it should be an interior, which we'll get to. But is there a filtration system? Can you guys recognize a filtration system? Can you recognize what a UV light looks like? Can you recognize what a reverse osmosis water system, purification system looks like, okay? Don't forget that if the buyer is looking at a house or a cottage with well or lake water, you need a bacteriological analysis of the lake water in order to be able to obtain a mortgage, okay? And to do that, most of the time, you need a filtration system. On the exterior of the property in rural and cottage properties, septic systems, is the grass really green? And so, what that means is that, a field bed, the way a septic system works is that somebody, does something down the drain, it goes into a septic tank, and that septic tank distributes the water into what's called a field bed. The field bed can be quite large if it's a big house or a commercial property, or it can be smaller if it's a 2-bedroom cottage, that kind of thing. The million-dollar question is the grass the same color throughout the whole backyard, or is the grass green in one particular area? And usually it's a hint that if the grass is really, really green, it's getting a lot of moisture from the field bed, which means that the field bed is filling up and you're going to have a septic problem in the very, very near future. So it's just a little hint for cottage and rural properties that are on septic beds. Look for the backyard. Sometimes septic systems are in the front yard, it depends. But you'll see one color of grass throughout, great. If you see one color of grass kind of surrounding quite a large green patch of grass in the middle, then there might be a problem with the septic system there. So you want to be aware of that. So property visit on the exterior. If the property is well maintained, there's a very good chance that the interior is well maintained. Point out to your buyer the positive features of the home. If there are negative features, do not dwell on them and always refer to an inspector. For example, the shingles are looking a bit tired. Please be sure that your inspector gives an opinion on maintaining life. Now that's easy in the market that allows you to have a home inspection. What do you do when in a firm deals like the environment that we're in now? What do you do for times like now? You have a responsibility to point it out, okay? You have to say that the shingles are looking a bit tired. Do you realize that you may have to replace the shingles in the next few years? It's very obvious that the shingles are tired to you as the buyer agent, but is the buyer agent actually looking up at the shingles? We're going to talk about the different kinds of buyers towards the end of this presentation, and you'll see what I mean by where will they be looking, yes or no, at just about anything. In the interior, what to look for. Is it clean? Obviously. Hopefully, most listing agents today, to get full price for their houses, are telling the sellers to get their house clean, but not always. Open the closets. Are the closets organized or are they a disaster? Okay. Are windows well maintained? No condensation leaving black marks or dirt or mold. Buyer agent should pull back curtains or lift blinds and have a look. Let's see what's happening along the base of the windows and along the frames of the windows. Is there condensation built up? Is there black marks in there? Has it been kept clean? Is it wiped totally free and clean and there's no indication of any kind of condensation or anything like that? Obviously, that's a better sign. A really good hint is when you're in the house, and I see it all in the MLS listings, floors all replaced in 2018. Hardwood floors installed in 2020, that kind of thing. An interesting hint on the quality of work that a contractor has done is take a look in the closet. Did they also replace the floors in the closet? I can't remember the number of times that I've been in a house where it's got some really nice wood floors put down, whether it's engineered hardwood or real hardwood floors. And then you open up the closet door and it's got carpet in the closet. Well, don't you guys think that that's kind of cutting a corner? It cuts a corner. Like, so what else did they do wrong? When they installed the floors, it talks to the quality not only of the contractor, because the contractor should say we really should replace the floor in the closet as well. So it's uniform. But also, is the seller like really trying to cut corners and saving a few bucks by not having the floors replaced in the closets? And if he's saving a few bucks on something as simple as that, where else is the seller saving a few bucks? So that's a really, really good hint. Have a look in the closets as well. The last one, and I do point out, do not go further than that, is there good access to the hydro panel? The reason why I put this in here is not that you should know what's going on with a hydro panel. That is not the intention of this statement. I don't want you to go any further than that. You're not electricians. You shouldn't be opening up the hydro panel. You shouldn't be giving comments of the number of wires going into the hydro panel or how many posts are being used in there, whatever. But is there good access to the hydro panel? Home renovations by the seller, often they've closed in the hydro panel, or the access to it is not, to be quite clear, free and easy. Hydro panels have to be accessible by a body, not by a hand reaching in, turning a corner, and then having to go like this and go like this and like this, and then you need a flashlight to see it way in the back somewhere. When I say a body should be able to stand in front of a hydro panel and have easy access. It's a hint that if it's all closed in and all messed up on the access to it, that the seller has done renovations on their own and does not know what they are doing. These are all good hints for you guys when you're doing firm deals. Once again, home inspectors would pick up on this immediately. They would know immediately that the hydro panel is not accessible and it does not meet proper regulations. They would pick up on things like the floors and windows and things like that. I'm trying to help you guys here with firm deals on kind of, what to look for. So that's part of the interior. Also in the interior, sagging drywall. I don't know if you guys know what sagging drywall is. Sagging drywall is when you have two walls meeting in a corner, okay? Two walls meeting in a corner, and then you see the little lines going down the corner, okay? One piece of the drywall has slipped away from the other piece of the drywall, and it only has to be a few millimeters, and it will show that it is sagging. Okay, it'll show it's obvious that it's sagging. It looks like a crumpled sheet almost in the corner. And this is another hint. You'll see this in new houses. I bought a new house 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now, I guess. And going down into the basement, there's definitely an indication of a little bit of settling. Without any doubt at all, I've got a little tiny bit of a sagging drywall. And houses do shift, believe it or not, and they do sag. But has it been fixed? Has it been taken care of? And will I take care of that? Yes, I will. But I'm going to give it another year or two to settle it totally in brand new houses. Vapor barriers. If you're in an unfinished basement, often there will be insulation on the walls, particularly in newer homes. You'll see the pink insulation on the walls in the basement. On the exterior walls of the basement, if you're in a townhouse, of course, it won't be on the interior wall, but on the exterior walls, you'll have the pink insulation. And is the vapor barrier on the outside of that insulation? So in other words, between where you are standing and the insulation, there should be a vapor barrier there. Is it peeling? Is it coming off? Have the kids shot hockey pucks at it all day long and it's full of holes? Is it coming apart? If a vapor barrier in a basement is coming apart, then what's happening is that condensation from the basement is getting into the insulation. Now you need a home inspection, okay? It would be pretty difficult for me to look a buyer in the eye and say, don't worry about it. It would be a real problem for sure. The other part of that, of course, is the red sealing tape that they use, the tuck tape that they use. Is it peeling? Is it coming off? Are there gaps in the vapor barriers? And that is a hint that there could be condensation going into the insulation, which of course is making the insulation lose its R value, but it's also, of course, a potential for mold, right? And so you do want to be careful about that. It's just another, once again, the home inspection would point this out immediately, but in firm deals, you know, you might want to say something to your buyer about this. Another great one. I love this one. Oops, sorry, that's my fault. Freshly painted ceilings below the bathrooms. You know, you're in the living room and you look up, and it seems to me that there's a fresh, you know, 6x8 square of paint on the ceiling. You know, if you look carefully, you see this all the time. So why is there fresh paint on the ceilings, especially below bathrooms, below sinks if you're in the basement? If the basement is finished, below the kitchen? Geez, that looks freshly painted. And why is that paint doesn't match the other paint exactly? Okay, what happened there? Well, there was obviously, well, not obviously, but probably a leak of some sort, and hopefully it's being fixed and it's being repainted. And you know, those are questions for the listing agent to find out if there's a problem or not in that area. Once again, a home inspector is going to do that, and at the bottom of the page it says, of course, you'll refer to the home inspector. Look under sinks in the cupboards. What's going on in the sink under the cupboard? Is there a bucket underneath the trap in the drain? I can't believe the number of times I've seen that. Is it full of moldy rags? Is it dirty under the sink? That's often a forgotten place under there. And last but not least, is the garage clean? I know it's a lot of work to clean a garage for sellers, but is it a good idea? These are just hints of what you're looking for in a case where you can't have a home inspection. One more thing about garages I want to talk about, and it does happen, is that sellers, and it's understandable, have taken the garage and they've extended their house into the garage. Maybe they've made a little den in the garage. You know, I'm sure some of you have seen this, and it's only actually half a garage. And if you see that, you have to ask if there's a building permit for that kind of a thing, because almost every time there isn't. And so do be careful about when you see a garage that's obviously being taken over as part of the house. You really want to double check that very, very carefully. Building permit, yes, but more importantly, an ESA, an Electrical Safety Authority check. Was that completed? And in an agreement of purchase and sale, if you run into that, you would want to ask for the ESA certificates and the building certificates that have cleared this all up to make sure that it's good. Does the buyer see everything? And the answer is no. Most of the time, they look from the heart first and the business part comes second, okay? I highly recommend that along with the MLS data sheet or buyer brochure or whatever you have, take a screenshot of the Geo Warehouse survey or property picture so that the buyer knows what they are purchasing, just as a hint, okay? They're looking from the heart, you guys. First visits, but once again, we'll talk about different buyers. First visits, they're just not paying very much attention. Give them the information that they need. In the case of firm deals that we're all going through right now, a second visit, if you can somehow squeeze in a second visit to the house, it's always a good idea. A second visit, a buyer is going to pay more attention to the house instead of just, oh, I love it, let's buy it. Which of course, from your guys' standpoint, selling houses, you love it when buyers say that, don't you? But are you doing the best service for the house, especially if the house is, you know, some of the hints that we've just talked about, You've seen these and you're going, let's get your buyer back in there to have another look. Okay. We don't want buyers having buyer remorse. They move in and they go, oh, geez, why did I buy this house? Boy, that agent talked me into this house and I never should have bought this, Second visits are always a good idea. Buyers see only what they want to see. Be objective, not subjective. Keep your personal taste out of the equation. And this is the most important tip I can give you by far, okay? Do not let your personal taste interfere with the decision of the buyer. You walk into a house and some of you I know have heard me say this, but you walk into a house and it's got green paint and you go, oh gosh, look at that green paint, isn't that awful? And the buyer says to themselves, I love green paint. What's wrong with this house? And you've just talked yourself out of a deal. One of the biggest mistakes I made selling cottages was I was at a very, very, very nice cottage, beautiful cottage, lakefront cottage, and it's perfect. It's got everything that the buyer wanted, without question, great access, actually year-round access. And we walked down to the lake, and the lakefront is facing west. It's really, really nice. And you look down, and all the beach and going into the water is all little pebbles, okay? All little stones going into the water. Not bad. And I looked at the buyer and I said, geez, too bad this doesn't have sand, because sandy beaches are so nice. And guess what? The buyer didn't buy that cottage. A few months later, after looking at plenty more cottages, he bought a cottage with, guess what? Had a sand beach. And I asked him, and I said, I know you love that other cottage, the one way back. And I said, I thought you were going to put an offer in on that one. And he looked at me and he said, you know what, John? You told me not to buy a cottage that had a sandy beach. Now, that's not what I said to the buyer, okay? I said, it's just kind of too bad, because guess what John likes? John likes sandy beaches, okay? I should have shut up, because the cottage that he bought was 50% less value than the cottage with the stony beach. And so I kind of, put my own foot in my mouth by that one. Don't let your personal taste interfere with the decision of the buyer. I'm sorry, somebody has a question? Andy says, I have seen properties in the past week or so that are sold conditionally, financing and home sale. Maybe the tide is turning a bit. So Andy says that in the last week or so, he has seen some sold conditionals, and he's absolutely right. There's definitely been more coming across my desk as well. And, maybe slide very slowly, Andy, into a more of a balanced market, which means that some conditions will be seen again. I actually saw a deal the other day that was conditional on the sale of the buyer's house, which I haven't seen in almost 2 years. And so hopefully it starts to become a little more balanced, and inspections will become the norm again, and take the weight of these things off of you guys when you're doing all firm deals, for sure. Do not let your personal taste interfere with the decision of the buyer. I can't stress that enough. Just keep your mouth shut about what you think about it, because you don't like the kitchen cupboards, or you don't like the kind of flooring, or you don't like the drapes, or whatever you don't like. Don't say that stuff. All right, keep it to yourself. Let the buyer decide if they like the house. Okay. That's I think by miles and miles and miles, the best tip I can give you guys, okay? Don't give your personal opinion about a subjective item, okay? So be careful, please, in that regard. Tricks, and I want to be clear, we're not tricking anyone, okay? With the tricks, I should say. Appointment tricks. I know this sounds crazy, but agents are consistently late. Why? It's almost as if the agent believes they do not have to be on time. I mean, this is just such a simple trick. You know, be on time, you guys. My goodness. If you can, trick number one, if you can book a 1 hour time slot, for example, for 1 o'clock, tell your client to meet you there at 1:15. Use the first 15 minutes to explore the home first so that you are prepared. So that, you know, your buyer thinks you know what the hell you're talking about. Okay. If that's possible, do that. Okay. If you can only book a half-hour time slot, for example, once again at 1 p.m., call the listing agent and ask, are there any other bookings before that? Do you mind if I slide in 10 minutes early to check the pace out so that I can show my client at the best, highest level of service? Nothing wrong with trying to do that, you guys. Okay. Just a great trick. And then you know, when I know myself, what have I done? I've walked into the house and go, I wonder where the bedrooms are. I wonder where the washroom is. And isn't it nicer to be able to walk through a house and go this way to the kitchen, this way to the family room, this way to the master bedroom? That is so much better than, okay, well, maybe this is the master bedroom. You know, do you see what I'm trying to say here? If you can check these things out first yourself, it's going to be so much better for the buyer's experience while they are looking at the house. Number three, book a buyer's preview and check the home out for yourself. Yeah, it might take 2 trips to the house, but your buyer, once again, will appreciate that you know the home well. Okay? I know a lot of people on this Zoom call aren't totally busy 24 hours a day, and maybe you should start doing this kind of thing. Make 2 trips, you know, especially if it's not like, you know, if you're going to Perry Sound, well, that's a different story. But if you're going around the corner from Richmond Hill to Newmarket, what the heck? It takes you 10 minutes to drive there or 20 minutes to drive there. Blow through the house in 10 or 15 minutes so that you can guide your buyers through the house instead of exploring together. Nothing wrong with exploring. I'm just trying to give you a hint, a trick that buyers will really appreciate it if you have been to the house first so that you lead them through the house. They'll believe you've been there before, you're a professional, you should know what you're doing here. Another trick, this is when you're doing an offer. I can't believe the number of times that the Herewith Cheque wins the offer. There was one here last week, Monday. I know about it. The offer that the agent won was $20,000 less than the highest offer because the check is herewith. Buyers today are putting in offers, as I'm sure some of you know this, just because, oh, I need to buy this house. It's a fabulous house. And, you know, they're not really thinking things through properly. And they put in an offer, they win it in a multiple offer situation. They go home that night, they toss and turn in bed all night, and they call up the agent in the morning and they say, we've changed our minds. We've made a terrible mistake. We do not want to buy this house. I am not giving you the upon acceptance check, okay? Which is the 24-hour clause. Folks, this is happening all the time that buyers are doing this. I don't know how many mutual releases I sign for buyers that have 0 deposit giving. It's an outstanding number, and I'm just one manager in Century 21 Heritage Group, and Century 21 Heritage Group is just one brokerage in a huge GTA of over 60,000 realtors. Oh my goodness, it's happening all the time. And guess what? Sellers are learning this. Sellers know this. Their agents are talking to them about it. Their listing agents are talking to them about the herewith and upon acceptance checks. Okay, sellers are preferring herewith checks. So does it help make your offer stand out from the crowd? Absolutely. So the chances that your offer get accepted is much, much, much higher. But you, as an agent, also know that your buyer is serious. They've actually taken the time on a Tuesday after the bank, get a bank draft, made out to the listing brokerage, and you have it in your hot little hands. And when you're emailing the offer, you email a copy of that check. It is one of the tricks to win a house, you guys. No question about it. Oops. Renovations. What about the home that needs renovations? And the buyer says to you, oh, sorry, does anybody have a question about herewith and upon acceptance checks? Okay. Renovations. Sometimes homes need renovations. Now, if you're talking to a builder, who cares, right? I mean, the builder's going to do the renovations, nobody cares. But sometimes buyers are wandering around the house going, geez, I wish the kitchen would be like this instead. And I wish the bathroom was updated. And this place is going to need a new furnace. Okay. So with a kitchen update, a bathroom, and a new furnace, let's just say for fun, $25,000. Okay. And the seller kind of, or sorry, the buyer kind of looks at you and says, you know, boy, I'd like these things to be done. One of the things that you should say to them is that, you know, these things don't all have to be done immediately. These things can be done over time. So you don't need to have all the expenses over time. You can actually, you know, maybe do the bathroom first and do the furnace second in the fall, and then do the kitchen in the winter time, that kind of a thing. Okay. So I just want to point out that for renovations, they don't have to, when buyers are starting to talk about all the work they have to do in the house, that you know, it's so much work, that point out to them that it doesn't all have to be done at the same time. Okay. Sometimes it can be just done room by room by room. And then they start to think that, well, instead of I need $25,000 to fix this in the next 2 weeks, I can fix the most important thing first. I can fix the bathroom first. And, you know, then we'll see how it goes from there. And when I have enough money, I can fix the kitchen next, you know, that kind of a thing. So, you know, try to smooth out the idea of all the renovations as being an objection, all the renovations having to be done all at the same time. In negotiations, this is a great one, you guys. In a multiple offer situation. And oh, by the way, Tim, I appreciate the question, but it's too off topic. In a multiple offer situation, when a buyer is saying to you, how much should you offer, or how much should I offer? And you say, well, you know, the house is worth, you know, $800,000, whatever. And round two comes around, okay? In other words, the listing agent has come out and say, everybody try again. And the buyer looks at you and goes, well, I thought you said the house was worth $800,000. Should I pay more? Well, I do think, the answer is I do think the house is worth, you know, around I never said $800,000 exactly, around $800,000. Tell me, Mr. Buyer, if you find out tomorrow that the house sold for $810,000, would you be upset? And if he goes, yes, I would be upset, then the next question is, well, would you like to try $10,000 more and see if this works? Okay. Or you can say, if it's $10,000 more, would you be upset if it's $20,000 more? If you find out tomorrow that this home sold for $820,000, would you be upset? Okay. And that's a great way to get the buyer to bump up his price a little bit. You don't want to force anybody, you know, into anything that they don't want to do. It's a good time to remind all of you about Form 127. Form 127 alleviates your responsibility from this kind of thing because the buyer signs that they understand the risks involved. I think in other webinars and in town hall meetings, I think we beat Form 127 to death, so I'm not going to get into it. But this is a great question to ask your buyer on, you know, when the buyer says, should I offer more, or should, you know, you told me that the home was worth around $800,000. Well, Mr. Buyer, you have choices. If you find out that it's sold for $10,000 tomorrow, would you be upset? Great question to ask. The male buyer, and by the way, no prejudice here, no discrimination here, no prejudice. It's really interesting. When a male buyer is interested in a property, they start to point out everything that's wrong with it. They are preparing you, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, for a low offer, okay? Oh, look at the scratches on the floor. You know, oh my goodness, this garage has got oil all over the floor, and this needs painting, and this has got a chip out of the corner of this and that. You know what? Often don't get discouraged. Don't think that the buyer, the male buyer in this case, the male buyer is totally turned off from this house. They love the house and they are preparing you for a low offer. Keep that in mind, okay? I know that a lot of people out there, a lot of agents, particularly new agents, as soon as the negative words come out about the houses, particularly from the male, I'm not trying to be sexist here because we're going to talk about the female in a minute, but particularly from the male, they could just be trying to prepare you for a low offer, okay? They don't necessarily realize that as a buyer agent, you're on their side. That's a whole different subject, of course. But do be aware that they might like the house, okay? Even though they're pointing out the negative parts to it, they're just trying to prepare you for a low offer. Just let me check the chats again. So Andy has a question concerning the Herewith Cheque. So he's saying, how do we do a Herewith Cheque when everything is being sent electronically? Andy, and for everybody else, you take a photocopy of the check or a bank draft because it's made out to the listing brokerage. It's obvious that you have it in your hot little hands. If you have the check in your hands and you give a photocopy of that check electronically along with your offer, the listing agent knows that you're holding the check, and if the offer is accepted, you've got to get into your car and drive it over. You're not depending on the buyer giving you the check anymore. So that's the male buyer. The female buyer. And once again, no prejudice, no sexism involved here, just from personal experience. In general, the female buyer will place the furniture in the house or say something like this: the kids will love this. You know, the couch goes great in the family room. Oh, look at this, our dining room table will fit perfectly in here, okay? In the meantime, the husband, the male buyer is trying to counteract the females. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. This fits here, this fits here. In the meantime, the husband's going, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. They're trying to balance each other out just as a natural kind of team environment. I tell you what, if I have a female buyer, a wife or girlfriend, whatever, who's placing all the furniture and saying things like the kids will love this, and in the meantime, the husband's going, what's wrong with this, what's wrong with this, what's wrong with this? I'm asking them if they want to put an offer in. It's as simple as that. That's the way the game goes, you guys. Keep that in mind, okay? Just because somebody is putting stuff down in the house, they could simply be preparing you for a low offer. That's all it is. And next, the last trick. I think this is the last one. You need to ask. Finally, most agents do not ask for the offer. It's unbelievable. You guys are salespeople, real estate sales agents. You need to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. And the easiest way to ask is, you really seem interested in this property. Would you like to try an offer? Okay. It's not, you know, maybe forcing it down their throat. Let's go back to the office and put an offer in, okay? You can be a little more gentle than that. I mean, you can take the harder line approach if you want. Either way, do something. Don't just ignore this. If they're loving the house, you're seeing the hints that they're giving you. They don't mind the curled up shingles because you pointed it out. It's a firm deal situation. well, let's go back to the office. Would you like to try an offer? I can prepare an offer for you. Would you like any conditions? Would you like to try an offer? You need to ask. I know it's a simple trick, but if you don't ask, you quite simply do not get. So, any questions so far about either the tips or the tricks? How am I doing? Everybody awake out there? Let's see. I guess everybody's good. Truths. Truths. Contracts. It is true that many agents do not know or do not remember the contents of the contracts that they work with. Explaining what's the BRA to a buyer is a very good idea. In addition, being able to explain the difference between a client and working with a realtor is really important. The agreement of purchase and sale is another one. And one of the problems with electronic signatures today is that agents are cutting the corner of not explaining, explaining what the buyer is signing, okay? You guys have got to be careful about this. When it comes to BRAs, Rico has had so many complaints about agents, and you know what the complaint is? It was never explained to me what I was signing, okay? You're trying to hold the buyer to a BRA that you've never explained to them what the BRA is or what the paragraphs say in a BRA, you're in trouble. If it gets in front of Rico, you're in trouble. It's as simple as that, okay? From personal experience, and as many of you know, I work up north. I sold properties on a wonderful place called Manitoulin Island. And I would get people from the GTA buying cottages, okay? And I would help them buy cottages. And I would sit them down and take them through the BRA and the working with the realtor. And then when it came time to do the offer, I would sit them down and say, here's the offer. Let's go through the paragraphs in the offer. And you know what I heard over and over and over again? And these are customers of mine from the GTA up north. And you know what they say? Wow, John, you can't believe that I bought and sold many houses and nobody has taken the time to explain these documents to me before. And guess what I got? I got referral after referral after referral because I'm a professional and I know what is inside these documents. You guys need to know what are in these documents and you should take the time to explain it. If you are doing a digital signature situation, an AuthentiSign situation, what I highly recommend you do is prior to sending the actual documents with AuthentiSign, is email them the documents without AuthentiSign. Hey, Mr. Buyer, just sending you these documents. Please take a few minutes to read these documents over, and then I'll give you a quick phone call to discuss any questions you may have. Once we've done that, then I'll send you the digital signatures for your, signatures so that you can complete the agreement, okay? You're doing your job as a professional by doing that. It's interesting, I know I could pick on somebody like Judy here because I see your name there, Judy, so I'm gonna pick on Judy for a minute here. But Judy, do you sign contracts under seal that you haven't read? Don't know if Judy's listening or not.
I am listening.
Okay.
And no, I usually know what I'm signing.
Right.
And I do explain to my clients what they're signing.
I have no doubt that you do, Judy. I really have no doubt. But the point is that Judy and I do not sign contracts without knowing what we are signing. And what is happening in the real estate world today, and I think Judy will agree, is that so many agents out there are just simply firing off the deal paperwork, including a BRA and a working with a realtor and a confirmation of cooperation and representation, and saying to the buyer, when you receive this email, click on the red start.
Yep.
Go click, 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 and I'll get it back and I'll let you know what the house is. And they've never explained the contents to the buyer. Would you agree with that, Judy, that that happens?
Absolutely. I am
Yeah.
sure that it happens. Believe me.
Oh,
Yeah,
me too.
I'm sure.
I know. And for those of you who don't know Judy, I won't say how long you've been a realtor, Judy, but let's just
That's
say
okay. That's okay. I'm a
she's
big
been
girl.
realtor for a long time. And so she's seen it all as well. And I appreciate your comments there, Judy. Thank you. But you guys don't sign contracts under seal without reading them first. Don't expect your buyers to do so either, please. CMAs, another truth that a CMA is a very, very important part of any transaction. Once you've composed 3 or 4 CMAs, they are very easy to do. Know your property values. Okay, if you don't know your property values, you're out of luck, you guys. Learn how to do a CMA. A CMA video is on our Century 21 Heritage Group YouTube training channel. You get to hear me again drone on about everything. Or you can go to the video section in the Toronto Real Estate Board, look for creating a CMA in Stratus, and they've got an excellent video there as well on how to do CMAs. I just can't stress it enough that you guys need to know how to do these. It is true that many salespeople have an area of expertise. And you guys know what I'm talking about. One agent has, oh, I can't compete in that area because that agent's got that area all sewn up already. Okay. Yes, they sell a lot of homes there because they know the neighborhood. But not only that, they know the names of the people that own the corner Quick Mart. Hey, Jack, I'm here to buy my lottery ticket this weekend. How you doing? Right? They know the neighborhoods that they are selling in. Now, this is difficult. I agree. There's a lot of neighborhoods in the GTA, and can you possibly know them all? And of course, the answer is no. But can you try? If you've sold a couple of houses in one area, have you gone to that corner store and made your face visible instead of the corner store where you live and you're not selling any houses there, as an example, okay? If you're volunteering in your community, that is a great way to learn your neighborhoods. If you're a member of the Cancer Society or the Lions Club, you're volunteering as a door-to-door. I better watch what I say because COVID and all that stuff, but you're volunteering as a door-to-door to collect money for a charity. That's another way to get to know your neighborhood, get to know the people in your neighborhood, that kind of thing. The personal contact that you make in your neighborhood where you're selling is really important. Contact sport. It is true that real estate is a contact sport. Realtors must meet their buyer clients. Well, that sounds so easy, doesn't it? My goodness. But here's what I see from my side of the desk, and the other managers see this as well. Agents are always texting, phoning, and emailing a potential buyer. Hey, Mr. Buyer, hey, Mr. Buyer, that's so easy. Texting is easy, emailing's easy, phoning is a little bit harder because you actually have to talk with the person. But guess what? Real estate is a contact sport, you guys. Using texting and emailing avoids meeting the buyer. Have you asked to meet the buyer and show them houses? Okay. And a lot of you have heard me say this before, I believe. I see Sandra's on board on this Zoom meeting, so she's heard me say this before. But what you should do is say, hey, Mrs. Buyer, John here, hope you're doing really, really well. I would love to show you some houses. It would be just great to get out and meet you, show you some houses, And are you available on Wednesday night or Saturday morning to meet me? Don't just say, I'll email you some suggestions. Meet these people. You know what one of the hints is in real estate when I'm teaching the Quick Start program is a good real estate agent wears out a pair of shoes every month. Basketball players, guess what? Wear out pairs of shoes because they're running, and that's a contact sport. Real estate is no different, you guys. You have to get out and meet your clients, or else, as many agents call it, I got ghosted, I think is the term that is being used today. I got ghosted by my buyer. He's not answering my texts or my phones or my emails. He's not doing anything. Well, I'd like to know, did you meet that buyer? And often when I ask the agent that, the answer is no, they've actually never met them. You're being used. Education. It is true. The more you learn, the better prepared you will be for just about any eventuality. It's pretty straightforward. We have a YouTube channel, okay? And the saying at the bottom, I know some of you have heard me say this before, is that and from my side of the desk, I have to know an awful lot about real estate. I think most of you would agree about that. I need to know a lot, but guess what I know? I know enough to know that I don't know enough. And this is the way that you guys should approach your real estate dealings. Don't think you'll ever know it all. It's a truth that I know enough to know that I don't know enough. And it's true that you know enough to know that you don't know enough. And so be careful with what you know and what you say to people, please.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like our video, please hit the like button, the subscribe, and even the little bell to get notifications, just so you can stay in touch and watch more of these great videos.